All right, everyone, welcome to our droid panel. We have two back-to-back. Well, first collecting, and now droids, which everyone loves. See a good droid around. I'm excited to have our three panelists here: Josh, Brian, and Chris. Thank you for joining us. First, if you could go through a little about yourself, any groups you're in, 501st, Rebel Legion, or just the Droid Builders, and just anything else you want to let us know about.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Josh Ward. I have been in the 501st for about 4 years now. I've been in the Rebel Legion for just since last Halloween-ish, so a year now. And I've been a droid builder for a couple of years, and I've got a full-scale R2-D2 built. There'll be pictures of him coming up. So that's what I've been doing.
Hi, so Brian here. I'm actually a member of the 501st Old Line Garrison up in Maryland, and joined that in about 2016 and decided I needed a companion while I was out trooping if I did any kind of solo troops, so decided to build a Imperial R2 unit here. Finished up, I think, in about 2018 for that one. And as well as, of course, being a member of the Mid-Atlantic Droid and Prop Builders as part of the whole journey towards droid semi-completion. So.
Hey, I've been in the 501st for 3-ish years now, something like that. I have a Imperial R2, C2S1 is what I decided to call them. Got a pit droid and a mouse droid as well. I happened to finish C2 just before the pandemic started, so he really hasn't had a chance to come out and grade anybody yet, but I'm hoping to get him out in the near future.
Fantastic. And tell me a little about the droid we're looking at. Anyone who starts. Do you know whose droid it is?
I don't remember who that is. It's somebody in Nova. I've seen him at the Nova Maker Faire, but I don't remember who was his creator.
Great. All right, well, we're just going to start up. So I believe this was at one of the events you guys were at?
Yep, this is at one of our local cons. We have Dio, Chopper, and then a couple R2s. The R2 up front is mine. The one behind it is Hammer's. We've got Tim Bolt's Chopper, and John Haig's Dio up front, and they're all doing the little conga line. All of those are 3D printed with the exception of the one in the back, who is all aluminum and steel, and it's a beautiful droid.
Definitely. So what's a little bit of the difference? Because when I was talking to a couple of the droid builders, this would be in 2017 during Celebration, the difference between like a 3D printed model and a all aluminum.
So you're looking at a big difference in cost, and really that's pretty much it. A well-printed 3D printed one can do almost anything that a metal one can do. It's just the metal one costs a lot more and is a lot heavier, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say transportation is a big issue, right?
Yeah, I can lift up my R2. He weighs about 65 pounds, so I can lift him up and get him over stairs and humps and whatever. It takes at least 2 people to lift up that back R2.
And then Chopper, is he probably on the light side? I haven't helped.
He's a little bit lighter, but not as light as he looks based on his size.
Fantastic. And then Dio obviously is pretty easily portable.
Dio weighs about 5-10 pounds, I think.
That's amazing. Now, not sure whose this is, but
this is John's. He is working on a second 40% ALT droid. I've got mine here, and let's see if I can get it outside. No, it's not playing nice with the background.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a little 40% racing droid, and this is the second one that he's working on. And
now this is what I want to make.
Yeah, that's a little mouse that's modeled after the A-Team. That's also John's.
Now he told me he made his top out of a parking sign that he found at a big box store. Tell me about the different like parts and stuff that you guys use to actually make these beyond just the 3D building.
So this one is made with that no parking sign that you see up top. It's just cut down to size and then glued together to make the what is called the shell. A lot of people get them custom molded. Some people 3D print them. The circuit board that he's got on this one is an actual circuit board with actual little chips plugged in and then painted the white and silver or silver and orange to match the stripe going down it. There's a lot of different ways you can make these mouse droids. This one is made off of like a big 4x4 truck. The standard is the Traxxas Bandit, so it's pretty fast and easily modifiable. But this one has to stand a little bit taller just because of those trucks, the big tires. So it's all custom built. These are my guys. Well, the top two pictures are my guys. The bottom one is John's. That's my R2 again. You can always tell it's mine because I don't have battery boxes on it. It's just easier for me to not have those for now. No, I take that back. The other one is John too. I've got one of the pit droids too. So every time I see that, I'm like, oh, that's mine. No, it's not. But that's his first ALT 40%er Ziggy, and then Dio, and then his pit droid. And then down the bottom is his C2.
That's actually my C2.
Oh, is that yours?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, the copper.
Yeah. So mine was also 3D printed. I got a lot of guidance from John and Josh. I think they were a little annoyed helping me from time to time, but whatever. So I decided to go, instead of going for like a screen accurate one, I wanted to do a Imperial inspired. We don't really have much of a Rebel Legion presence out here, so it seemed kind of silly to have an actual R2D2. So we went with the Imperial one, and the copper and flat black just really pops.
There is the BB-9E. Yeah, that's the black and silver. That was in the Last Jedi. Nicknamed BB Hate.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if in Nova, if someone's actually built one with those paint schemes yet. Last meetup I had, I saw a couple, and they were really going pretty good on the customization. Including a couple of heads that weren't the standard BB-8 dome, but actually branching out into that disc shape, and even having like a blast visor on one. So I would say, as in general for droid builders, kind of the sky is the limit, as long as it's looking kind of Star Warsy, or even if it's not. Let your creativity be your guide. It's your droid. Do what you want with it.
Yeah, we'll get to that just a little on, but yeah, the red one there with the lightning bolt, those ones are the racing droids, right?
Yes.
That's and when do you guys use those? Do you actually set up races and get to run them around?
We got involved doing the racing droids right before everything went sideways, so we haven't actually had a chance to race them yet.
That's cool. No, I love to see them because I don't think have they been in anything?
Yes, they were in Rogue One. There was
Rogue
one full-scale one in Rogue One in the background for a few seconds.
Fantastic. Let's see here.
And that's my R2 and pit droid, and BB-8's head over on the side. And I think that's John's. Chris, is that John's?
Yeah, that's John's.
After it's been painted.
Yeah, one of our panelists couldn't make it, so we're showing all the pictures that were given to us. So definitely nice. One question I asked him was, these look great when they're standing up, but can they actually fold down into their smaller components? And he goes, no, that's just CG.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's two models that you can get. You can get the standing up one that's fully posable, and then you can get the already collapsed one as a separate model to print and build and paint and do all that fun stuff.
Very cool.
These are more John's pictures.
Okay.
It's his Dio and his racing droid, and his Dobby is called. It's a BB-8 inspired Dio droid. It's got the same guts as the Dio on the side, but has different panels on the sides and head. It's one of the original designs for BB-8 back before they figured out how to make the whole ball motion thing.
Incredible. Probably John.
More John.
I know.
John and his Imperial droid, and then it looks like the guts and the back panel of his A-Team mouse. At that event that he's got the C2 there, I was dressed up as Darth Vader and walked around the con with him blaring the Imperial theme or Imperial March behind me. So that was pretty fun.
That's amazing. And I do believe that droid has a restraining bolt on it?
Yes, it does. It's magnetically attached and keeps it from leaving the hull.
That's great. Love it. Probably John.
And this is his in progress things. He's got the Dobby up top, another Dio, and some random parts for other things.
So this
John
panel
has a couple droids.
Sorry, yeah. You go, Chris.
Sorry, no, I was just saying John has a couple droids.
Yeah, definitely is what it sounds like. So I guess my good question for you guys was, how do you get started in doing these? Now that we've seen all the cool glamour shots, what do you recommend?
So I recommend going to astromech.net, reading everything that you can there. There is a Facebook group for the R2 builders, and then there's another one called Mr. Battley's Droids. He is a designer in the UK who has 3D modeled R2 and Dio and Chopper now, and gives away the files basically for free or for a minimal Patreon donation, depending on what you're trying to get to. Everything can be printed, done 3D printing, and then he's got instructions on how to hook it up to motors and drives and that kind of thing. Let me see if I can get out of... Hold on.
Could you repeat the name again, please?
Mr. Battley's. I'll post that in the chat.
Great.
And while he's doing that, I would just suggest, at least my path into the droid builders was I started with a mouse droid. You can do a mouse droid for like $100 if you're frugal and you make a lot of the stuff yourself. And that, for me, that was really kind of what got my foot in the door. And then you can kind of branch out into the higher value droids, like, for example, R2.
Yep. So, Brian, I see Imperial R2 over there. Could you cover your entry into the droid builders?
Yeah, so I started, essentially I was looking to get into another costume design, so I had some funds set aside for that. That ended up falling through, so I had the savings available. I decided to instead switch gears. Figured it'd be kind of a cool thing to troop with a droid companion while I'm in costume, either the TK or the staff officer here. So being 501st, definitely wanted to go Imperial. Went to the astromech.net, started seeing at that time they had the 3D printing coming online, and then your other two big options were the all aluminum, which just wasn't in the budget, or a styrene plastic, which is what I ended up going with for the majority of my components. So my entry in was basically make a big parts list, at least for the major stuff, figure out how much, all the stuff you want to build, what kind of features you want in it, and what your budget price point is, and what your skills are. Because I would say it probably is a little bit of a different skill set to build all metal versus working with plastic versus working with wood. versus the 3D printed set. So there's a lot of different routes you can go, and it's really, once you read kind of the basics. By the way, they did post pretty recently a really nice intro tutorial on the Astromech site to kind of, I guess, really help get you started a little better versus just this sometimes overwhelming list of information and blueprints. But once I knew what configuration I wanted to build, I just started picking up stuff either as it was available or as I had time to make it. And then maybe over 18 months of cutting and assembling, finally had something I could showcase. So I will give a shout out too that I went the CNC cut styrene plastic route. I did have access to a CNC machine at my local makerspace. So if you're looking at getting involved, certainly do a search, look around, see, what's available to you, because most of these makerspaces, they'll have maybe a CNC router. They'll probably definitely have a 3D printer available if you don't have one. They usually have a pretty nice selection of woodworking tools if you want to go the wood frame droid route. And they're on top of that, you got a bunch of people that are really enthusiastic about making stuff, and chances are they're also Star Wars fans. So if you're looking to get into the hobby, certainly give that a try. Check it out.
And when you say local makerspace, forgive me, I'm new to this. So is that literally like you get to go to a place and it's like a Kinko's and you can just print out whatever or ask them to do whatever?
It's more it's more they have the equipment, you do it yourself. So the one I have, it's all member driven. So a bunch of guys got together, invested funds, rented an industrial space, big roll top door in the back, high bay, concrete floors. And then slowly they just started building up equipment, starting probably with some table saws and regular mechanical routers. And then as members got stuff either donated to the club or bought through the funds, then they had, welding components, a lathe, manual metal milling machine, 3D printers, laser cutters. And you basically just pay a membership fee per month. And that gets you 24/7 access to any piece of equipment in the space.
Just incredible.
We've got one down in Norfolk that it's you pay, I think it's $75 a month, and it's all you can access, use. You have to go through some safety training for things like the laser cutter, the CNC, to make sure that you're not going to blow it up or shoot your eye out, kid. But it's a really great place to work if you need to get access to tools that you can't fit in your own house or can't afford to buy yourself. So you've made the styrene R2. I started one. I started cutting the bottom layer and the first uprights, and then I was pointed to the 3D printed route, and I was like, I'm not touching an X-Acto knife on this ever again. I've still got all the styrene sheets sitting in my workshop. But yeah, it would have been a long build because I didn't have access to a CNC machine at the time. So I was cutting it all out with an X-Acto knife and a ruler, and yeah. Sure. So I've got the CR10 S5, which is a 500 by 500 by 450 printer. It can make an entire R2 dome or chopper dome or R2 body all in one piece, basically. Very long prints. We're talking 6 or 7 days that it's running continuously for something like that. I use PLA Plus almost exclusively. My R2 is PLA Plus. My little race droid that I can show now because I'm not doing the big screen, he's PLA Plus. More heat sensitive or heat insensitive than regular PLA, but still is easy to print. And it's not like ABS where you have to have a full enclosure and the fumes get to you. There's almost no fumes on this thing. So that's my main printer. I've also got a little resin printer out in the workshop, and the Forge Pro next to it that is tiny at this point.
Yeah, I have two CR10S's, which are basically the slightly smaller version of the one that Josh showed. I also have a small resin printer, which is really useful for like some of the small greeblies on the droids. But yeah, the big FDM, the filament printers are the ones you really want to go with when you're making the bulk of these. And I also use the PLA Plus for a lot of the same reasons that Josh said.
Yes, I do. Even though the big parts of this droid were out of the sheet styrene, as we mentioned, you still got all the little detail greebles and things like that. So I had a Prusa Mark 2.5, and that's a 210 millimeter by 210 millimeter by 250 high. So you certainly can't do a large part in one piece. Like the booster covers are probably the biggest thing I printed for my droid, and that was in two-piece, just barely tapping out the Mac tight on there. I also did choose to go with ABS, mainly because I was worried about if I ever have this droid sitting in the car or doing an outdoor event in the middle of summer, I didn't want to have any concerns about PLA warping.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the easiest thing to print. Main issue there is just when it cools, it tends to shrink a little. So I'd have the edges at the bottom of my print start curling up, and if that happens bad enough, then your whole print will separate from the bed, and it's ruined at that point. So I did use an enclosure. I think I ended up printing on masking tape. You squish it down a little more, tweak your settings. You can get it to work, and once you get it dialed in, it does print really nicely. The other advantage of the ABS too is it sands really well. For those who have done any finishing on PLA, it's not the most sandpaper friendly material in the world. Whereas with the ABS, you can wet sand it and get it almost perfectly smooth without any Bondo or filler going in there. So again, do your research, figure out kind of what's going to work for what you want it to do, and go from there. I do also have a smaller resin printer. Elegoo ended up putting out theirs, a year or two ago, and that thing has been a godsend for some of these more detailed parts, especially like the under shoulder details with all those little knurled edges. The detail, you just can't get that easily out of a filament-based printer. And if it's non-structural, it's just there to look good, then, definitely I would say at this point the resin's way to go.
Excellent. And then I was just reading a couple of the questions here. So I guess DC has a DC library, for anyone who's in the area, has a maker space that's laser printers and a laser cutter and 3D printers. Let's see here. And then the libraries in Chesterfield all have a maker space, so that's really fantastic to see. Let's see. So obviously, I think the mouse droid is probably the first entry that most people start with, just to get an interest and come out and meet you guys. Now, you don't have armor parties, but I assume you have droid builder parties. Would you, Brian, since we got you on screen, would you go into that and just talk about how those work? I know they're not working right now, but in the future, how they would work?
Yeah, so at least with the Mid-Atlantic Droid and Prop Builders, we do have at least an annual get-together. It's kind of a members-only thing because we don't want to feel like we're having to put on a show for a general public. So we just go there with just with each other to talk shop. Bring whatever you're working on at the moment. Last couple ones I think were up by BWI. The airport there next to I forget it was Communication Museum or what the official name of it is, but we go there, we bring our totes in, and you're really doing kind of assembling, discussing what control system you maybe are using. If you bring your laptop, maybe you're trying to troubleshoot some code. A lot of these are running off of an Arduino system. with a couple different flavors of pre-developed code base. So I'm not going to sell it as plug and play, but with a couple of tweaks on a few lines, it's getting pretty close. But you do run into that odd bug, and having some other people that have went through that experience that can go and look at it live while it's plugged into your board, that's definitely helped me out at least once. So that's kind of the larger build parties I've been to. I'm a little bit isolated down in Southern Maryland, but I would guess that if you're in a little bit more populated area, then similar to the armor parties, you could probably get some help from another builder to meet up, either at somebody's house or at a local place. Just kind of go through things.
And then with the Hampton Roads folks who aren't in Maryland, how does that work? We'll go to you, Josh, and then also you showed us something. So let's put it up on the big screen if you wouldn't mind.
All right, sure. So in the Hampton Roads, we've got 5 or 6 people that are building droids, and we've got a Facebook chat group going on that you can ask questions. I just had a question today. I was running a new servo installed, and it was going crazy, and it turns out I was using the wrong pin on the Arduino, so I fixed that, and everything's good now. What I was showing you was the motherboard for my R2. It's a mess. It's a whole bunch of wires, but you've got the motor controller here, the dome motor controller here, the Arduino here, soundboard, amplifier. This big thing here hooks up to a Ryobi 40-volt battery. This drops that 40 volts down to 12, and then the power in the sides to go there. Like I said, that's the motherboard for my R2. It comes out completely, and then I plug it into all the things that needs to get plugged into on the inside, and it can drive around.
Fantastic. Now, controllers. I know you guys. Yeah, exactly. I know, and this is one thing I love about you. Either you have a 1 foot by 1 foot controller that the thing is amazing, that's probably meant for like airplanes, or you have this very tiny joystick that you can literally put in your pocket and nobody knows you're running a droid. Chris, would you kind of go with that, and then we'll cut back to the other panelists?
Sorry, I was using my space bar, and apparently it decided to stop working there. So I've got one of the PlayStation controllers that Josh just showed. It's excuse me, it's Bluetooth enabled, so you get this little. It looks like a little USB stick that Josh has. Josh came a lot more prepared apparently than I did. But yeah, it plugs right into the Arduino, and like you said, you can put it in a pocket, especially if you've got like a jacket on or something, and no one knows who's controlling it. Rather, I haven't had much experience with the RC control system, so.
The gentleman I met at Celebration, I should say, he just had a huge soundboard on it, and this thing did everything, absolutely everything. I think it played every movie, start to end. Like, it controlled every single function of it. So it was definitely fun. Let's go to you, Brian. I don't know if you're ready for us yet, but if you're not, it's cool.
Yeah, so from the control aspect, again, you can do either Xbox 360 or PlayStation Move navigation. I do like the dual stick setup that was put together for, it was called Shadow, SHADOW. If you Google it, or if you search for it on the R2, on the Astromech forums. The really nice thing about it is it automatically reconfigures itself if you got one controller enabled or if you have 2. And then if you are running with 2, then you get a full extra set of buttons to map pretty much whatever you want it to do with those. Again, because you're running through Adreno, you can just kind of go through the code, and if you don't like the way the default setup is, you just, type in, hey, I want it to map to this button instead, and you kind of go from there. Yes, as a costumer in the 501st, if I'm out trooping with the droid, having that discrete controller, though, it really lends itself to immersion, and really transforms the droid from this like giant oversized remote controlled toy to an actual Star Wars character. And I don't know if you're touching on it in this droid in this form or not, but the other aspect is you're almost become a puppeteer, where as you get more and more experience with these droids, then you kind of figure out, okay, what is the interaction it's going to have with the public, and again, being able to do that seamlessly with a discrete controller it's really helped my experience. But again, you are still a little bit limited from that huge one. My droid is basic. It opens the utility arms and it does sounds and rotates the head, and that's pretty much it. So I would say the downside is if you want to have all the cool little toys, panels opening, stuff shooting out the dome, then maybe you would probably look at a larger control setup.
That's exactly what he had on his droid, is that he had literally buttons that did everything from full malfunction to craziness. So yeah, he carried around just this incredible box that it just was great to see that it was literally 100%, pretty much like almost like a movie. This thing came right off the movie lot, and that's what they're using. So Josh, if we could go through your controller real quick.
Sure. So I use the PS3 Move navigation controller. You can pick these up at GameStop for just a few bucks used. I've got 5 or 6 of them now, just because I go into a GameStop and I say, hey, do you have any? And I pick them up as I can. The batteries in them are getting older and it's a pain in the butt to replace. So just getting a whole new controller is easier. Like I said, it's a few bucks, so it doesn't cost hardly anything. I normally just have the one controller, so I've got sounds and moving the dome and driving forward and backwards and side to side and all that. One of the things that I like to do is have the dome follow a person. So like if somebody is walking by and looks at R2, I'll move it so the eye is facing them and then just sweep across as they're walking past. That's kind of the limit of what I can do puppeteering wise. We've got a local DO, or BB-8, who can do all kinds of extra puppeteering motion with the head moving forward and backwards and side to side while spinning. There's a lot more you can do with something like that, and they use a full RC controller for that guy, and it's pretty amazing. But mine is more limited.
Very cool. Brian, we're going to go to you for this next one here. So I know that, like, I'm a computer programmer. I do that day in and day out. So, like, you're talking about code. You're talking about probably firmware on some of these systems. How does that all work? And then, is it easy for people who may not be computer savvy to adjust them? Or do they need help from you guys? Or is it, how does that work?
So I would say it looks intimidating at first. But really, once you kind of understand the basics of just having a couple files, then it actually becomes pretty easy. So out of all of that circuitry that Josh had showed you, there's really only one thing that you're actually dumping the code on, and that's going to be on your main Arduino controller. So one USB connection, just one big. The Arduino calls them sketches. So just one main programming file. And then there's a couple of libraries that you need to add. The nice thing is the instructions are pretty well detailed, both on the forums and on the GitHub, where you're actually getting the code from. So if you're good at just following step by step, even if you don't really have a familiarity, with software or coding, it's something you can certainly do. And again, if you do run into issues, which I have a couple times, then you can post it up on either the Astromech forum group, or there is also a Facebook kind of unofficial R2 builder group that if you're looking for a quick response, there's certainly a lot of helpful people on there where you kind of describe, here's the problem that I'm having, here's the code that I messed with, what are your thoughts? And it's again, a little bit of a challenge at the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, I think pretty much anyone, even with no software background, could go ahead and manage it.
Fantastic. Chris, so do you take that? I'm going to extend that question a little and go, how does it, like, can you, you said modify it and hack it. How does that work? Like, have you done any of that to any of your droids or, any of your experience with that? And you're muted. There you go.
So, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best when it comes to coding. I'm very thankful that there are those sketches that are already out there and mostly written. But for the R2 droids, at least, there are a lot of documentation that goes along and commenting with the code. So I mean, it's really user friendly, where someone like me who knows nothing about coding can go in there and everything will be listed out. So like if you need to increase the power to your drive motors, for example, the variables are really obvious which ones they are. They've got comments that tell you what the ranges are and everything. And so for someone like me, it's really nice and really user friendly.
Fantastic. And then Josh, how are you? Do you like to hack yours? Do you tweak them? And then I'll have a little follow-on question since you showed us all your boards. I'm an old school guy. I was brought up in a computer repair college. One of my roommates jumped on the call here. But like, how much soldering is it? Any kind of things like that?
So I have done just a little bit of extra modifications to my code. I tried to do the screen share, but it's been disabled here. That's no problem. But mostly it's the basic default. You just change a few settings, like to make sure that it drives forward when you tell it to go forward. You can set the speeds that it goes based on what buttons are pushed down, that kind of thing. As far as soldering, there is some with the LEDs, the lights in the dome. Most of it is plug and play. There's some that are these little connectors, and you use a crimper to do that, and then everything just plugs into the boards. Yeah, it's either that or it's screw terminals for the most part.
Fantastic.
You can solder things if you want to.
No,
I
don't think
you really love it.
I don't think anybody should have to do that anymore unless you really need to do it. It wasn't fun back then. I don't think it's fun now. You said you do a little modification, a little hacking. I wouldn't go so far as to call it hacking, more of a modification. But did you find the code easy to work with and the documentation, things like that?
Yeah, so almost everything that needs to be changed is in the first, let's call it 200 lines of the code.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really well documented internally, comments on almost every line. Like this one, byte turn speed equals 75. And then comment, the higher this number, the faster it will spin in place. That's pretty much it. So you change it to how fast you want them to be able to turn around in the circle. Just everything is pretty much like that. It's, make this a 1 if it's driving forward, make it a 0 if it's driving backwards. That kind of thing. It's really simple.
Very, very cool. So it sounds like everybody who's watching this, and I did want to bring up this is a charity event. So anyone who would like to donate to Make-A-Wish, we would love to see that. I'll put a copy of the link here. We're definitely trying to get above 800 this hour. But again, thank you for everyone here. So we've been talking with charity with all of our sister events. Do the Droid Builders also do a lot of charity work? This one will be for Brian, if you could. Sorry.
I would say through Mid-Atlantic Droid Builders, they are aligned very closely with both 501st and Rebel Legion. So typically when there'll be an invite out for a charity event, trying to think the last one I did that was pure charity was probably in November with the Travis Manion Foundation. It's an annual run that's at the U.S. Naval Academy, and it's always a joint invite event. So that's kind of where we I guess jump into the charity vein. I don't actually recall off the top of my head a Droid Builder specific event
And that's fine. I thought I'd ask, because we did talk that Saber Guild is big into charity, the Rebel Legion earlier. I just wanted to make sure that we brought it up. Definitely, a lot of the droid builders that I've run into are either Rebel Legion, 501st, or both, or even Saber Guild, or pretty much any of our sister organizations as well. So it's nice to see. So, Chris, how about we go with you? I have. Brian mentioned he did a troop with just him and his droid. Have you done a smaller event like that where it's just maybe just your droid or just you and your droid?
So as far with the mouse droid, I've taken it to a couple relatively small troops. But C2, my astromech, he literally got finished and we went on lockdown like the next week. So yeah, I have really bad timing.
We have had a couple of our newest members talk today about, they literally joined in March and April. So, no, it's been amazing, the effect that this pandemic's had on us. And I guess that kind of leads me, I'll do a follow on, has this made it more interesting that you want, now that you're in your house, are you really focusing on 3D printing and getting your droids built and really trying to get that all, your projects done?
The reason that mine is finished is because of quarantine. That I had 6 months where I wasn't doing anything and I was locked in my house. So you can get a lot of sanding and painting done in 6 months.
Yeah, no lies there. So fantastic. Josh, how about you? Has the pandemic made you do that?
I started printing Chopper when the pandemic hit and finished printing him up just a few weeks ago. Got all the parts done. It takes a long time to print an entire astromech. There's just no way to get around that. So anybody who says, yeah, I've got a friend who's got a 3D printer, I want to print on his, just buy your own printer. Because you're going to be running it 24/7 a lot of the time. And anytime you're printing something, that means that your friend can't be printing something that he wants. So get a 3D printer, start printing, and learn your machine and how it works. Is what I'll say to that. But yeah, so Chopper is my quarantine project, pretty much.
Fantastic. Brian, do you have a quarantine project right now?
Yes, I do. So it started with the droid going into the whole COVID situation. It was all styrene with 3D printed detail pieces. As I started going through that, I kind of got bit a little bit by the aluminum bug. If that affects you, I'm sorry for your wallet. And ended up starting collecting like all of the basic, I'll just call them the shiny bits. And through the process, throughout, I guess, the spring, it's been a process of collecting and then uninstalling the old 3D printed parts and then installing the now metal parts. The majority of those, by the way, are typically, you look through them on the Astromech forum. There'll be part runs for the aluminum parts periodically, or I went the route of, for some of the flat pieces, especially the center and the side vents, there are vector drawings up there, CAD files, and I just farmed it out to an online machine company to have them water jet cut flat pack, and then that was part of my quarantine project, was sanding them all down, finishing off after I received them, and then gluing them together to have metal center and side vents.
Brian, can I ask who you used for your water jet cutting?
I went with Big Blue Saw. Again, the edges are pretty rough when you use that process. It almost looks like diamond grit sandpaper as far as the finish goes. So you'll have some filing to do on the back end. There's a couple other spaces out there if you decide to go that route and you're just handy with computer software. There's certainly some other things you can do.
Yeah, I sent a project to OSH Cut to try them out, and it worked pretty well, but there was a lot of finishing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, Brian, we'll go with a follow-on. So it sounds like you had a 3D printed part, and then you decided to move to an aluminum part. So it sounds like you can actually like get your droid done, but then update it, add new parts. Forgive me, I talked over you. If you could say that again.
I said, no, I'm just saying done in parentheses. At least I've found you can have it finished, i.e. functional, you can drive it around, but you never seem to be truly done with it. There's always something else you want to add. But yeah, the way that they're built, it is fairly modular, depending on your method of assembly. If you're using like super glue to put all your parts in place, then certainly you're going to probably have a little bit of a rougher time. I went with E6000 silicone adhesive, and let me tell you, after building this Stormtrooper outfit and screwing up multiple times and having to disassemble parts and then put them back in new positions, that stuff is a godsend. So certainly I would highly recommend that for any of the smaller parts that don't require structural integrity, because again, it is something that once it's dry, it holds, and it holds well, even with the weight of the aluminum parts. But again, if you do make a mistake or want to swap it out later, it is fairly easy to disassemble those things.
And Chris, you were nodding with yours, so it sounds like you're doing little upgrades here and there. You get it done and you keep touching. Would you go into your story?
Yeah, no, I was just agreeing that these projects are never done. Like Brian said, you can start driving around and everything, but it'll never be done. I mean, I'm already looking at upgrading the axles and the drive system, so.
Gotcha. Josh, same with you?
Yeah, so my first event with R2, he wasn't even painted yet. He was just the pure white naked droid. And so I took him out, had a couple problems, fixed those, and then started painting him. But and that was 2 years ago I started with that. Just today, I'm finally getting servos into the arms so they can open and close. Working on that for Halloween so he can be my candy delivery system.
Love that. You're making a candy tube, or yeah, I saw a beer caddy dropping off candy with beers as well for the adults walking around.
He's gonna hold a bowl and drive to and from the end of the driveway.
That is fantastic. That is you'll have to put a video up if we don't already have one, sure. So we can all partake of that one. Let's see here. So we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to let you all wrap up with whatever you want to talk about, whether it be, like I said, joining, getting help, anything you don't think we've covered here. We'll start with Chris this time, and then we'll go right back through.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think for a lot of people, it might be better to start with like a mouse droid. Again, just because of the cost and time. I mean, once you get all the parts together, my mouse droid went together basically in a weekend. But yeah, I would go on to the forums. A lot of the setup is very similar to how the 501st or Rebel Legion operates. The forums are super helpful. There are Facebook groups out there, and everyone is like really eager to help. And again, just like when you're making a TK or something like that.
Fantastic. Brian, any last thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I would say, you're preaching to the choir. Definitely hit up Astromech. There's an intro board on there, so just say, hey, here's me, here's where I'm from, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'll say the other thing is, if you are intimidated or maybe not the best handyman, keep in mind too that there are quite a few different parts runs. Which would allow you to have the stuff come basically pre-cut for you, and then it's just a matter of assembly with glue or bolt screws, that sort of thing. You will probably be waiting a while. Those interest lists will run probably 7 to 9 months. But again, if you are truly, I guess, intimidated by kind of some of the hands-on stuff, it's another route to go that would certainly still get you a very nice finished product.
A quick follow-on question. As somebody in chat asked, is a mouse droid a kit or does it have to be made? Brian, sorry, we'll go with you.
Oh, I've actually never built a mouse droid, so
sorry. Well, then Chris,
I may not be the best one to ask on that. Yeah, I decided to go big or go home, and went with the full functional R2 as my first build.
All right, we'll go with Chris on that one. So, a mouse droid, is it a kit, or does it have to be made?
So the short answer is it needs to be made. The shell that I have, which is the entire body really of a mouse droid, was vacuum formed, very similar to how a lot of the 501st armor is. And then, like Josh was mentioning earlier, I've got a Traxxas, which is an RC car, as its base. And then the Greeblies that go on the side, they can be 3D printed, they can be actual circuitry. It depends on how accurate you want to get. And with some of the mouse droids, I mean, people will just use like dowel rods and stuff for the top Greeblies. Obviously that's not the most accurate, but if you're going for something that just kind of has the same outline, I mean, it's your droid. You do with it what you want.
Gotcha. Thank you, then, for that answer. And then, Josh, any closing remarks?
Sure. So work with the material you're most comfortable with, I would say, whether that be the plastic or 3D printing or metal. Just make a droid. It's really fun, and the kids love it, and you can even use it while you're in costume if you've got one of the softer costumes to play with. Make one. There's always help out there. If you end up going to Mr. Battley's Facebook group, I'm one of the prime answering questions guys there. Chris knows. He's asked lots of questions, and within seconds, I've usually got a response to him.
You got the phone on and charged.
The help is out there.
Yeah, you got the phone on and charged. That's fantastic to hear. All right. Well, thank you to my three panelists, Josh, Brian, and Chris. Thank you so much. I know we were supposed to have some extras, but you guys filled the time very well. I'm sorry I made you talk extra to fill them up their time. But I do appreciate it, and hopefully I'll have a mouse droid here soon, because my Imperial crewman, it can't be seen without a mouse droid at this point. Thank you again, everybody. We're now gonna head for station identification to look at the official Lucasfilm credits. Thank you, everybody.